Hello Dragonlings, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know, my name is Sky, and I typically write paranormal romance under SD Haggis. Today's video is going to be part of a new series where I show you the process that I go through from draft to publication. This was originally an outline I wrote in a composition notebook that I no longer have. The pages were torn out and added to a 3-ring binder in which I keep all of my loose, random story ideas in, that I'm slowly typing up and inputting it into the computer for later use, because I am trying to break away from using paper more and more as each year passes. In this case, the story outline was one I wrote back in early 2017, possibly even late 2016. I am not certain exactly when, and I'm even guesstimating just because my handwriting back then. My handwriting develops a little bit more every year, and based on the handwriting I used, I can kind of predict when that story was written. So the story itself is a couple years old, and I'm not exactly certain how old it is, but I've never actually written it beyond what you will see developed in this video. I've never written any more than the outline, the initial concept I had for werewolves, as well as the character profiles I created. Growl was originally called Close Encounters based on an inside joke that I no longer remember at all. However, the title changed officially when I came across a pre-made cover for sale that I absolutely loved, that worked for the concept of the story, and that had a title placeholder of Growl. I contacted the cover artist, purchased the cover, and asked if I could use that placeholder title as my actual title, to which the artist gave me permission to do so. So that is what Close Encounters became. It is now called Growl. The first thing I did was open a brand new blank document in Scrivener. I am using Scrivener 3 on Mac Mardigan, my Mac. And then from there, I created a bunch of folders. I knew how many chapters there were based on the written outline, so I just went ahead and created all of my chapter folders ahead of time, marked them with the name of the character the chapter is about, and then started filling in the cards with the outline of the story itself. This outline was written in paragraph form, and I have continued that as I fill out the cards on the computer. Each chapter alternates between two main characters who are love interests, Doug and Lizzie. There are 2 chapters for Doug for every 1 chapter of Lizzie. In more recent projects that I have worked on, where I have alternated the point of view between 2 characters like this, I have alternated it based on each chapter so that it would go between the male and female, or the male and male, or the female and female love interests, and I will probably be changing this to do the same. However, I was just copying everything almost word for word from the written document to the text document, so I wanted to leave everything as is, and I will make changes in the next step of my process where I rework this outline. The initial idea behind Growl developed from the idea of someone hitting a dog, except for what if that dog wasn't a dog at all, but a wolf? And what if that wolf wasn't a wolf, but actually a werewolf? And from there, the story developed into this outline that you see me typing up. In Growl, we have our main male character, Doug, who is a werewolf, part of a pack, and his alpha has told the pack that they are welcome to challenge him for the right of alpha, and Doug, with his everlasting pride, challenges the alpha, loses, and runs away from the pack, because even though no one told him he would be banished if he lost the fight, his pride will not allow him to stay either, and as he is running away from the pack, he ends up getting hit by a car. Then on the other hand, we have our female main character, Lizzie, who is having an argument with one of her family members about the fact that she won't return home. She has decided to stay in a relationship that her family has always told her is no good for her, and even though she is starting to realize the relationship is no good for her, she has decided to stay in it because her pride will not allow her to leave it. So during the argument over the phone with her family, she ends up hitting what she originally believes to be a dog. It looks like a dog until she gets out, and then she discovers it's a werewolf. However, the storyline I'm going with in this case is that she realizes it's a werewolf, and the relationship that develops between these two characters as he tries to find out why she knows so much about werewolves when she does not seem to be one herself, and her trying to get out of her abusive relationship with her soon-to-be ex near the beginning of the story, and how their relationship with each other develops over the course of the story. This outline as it stands currently is just an overall look at the main storyline and the relationship between Lizzie and Doug. However, as I go back through and re-outline it or develop the outline further, I would like to also add in more subplots. I would like to be able to add in more of the relationship between Lizzie and her family, as well as Doug and his lack of a family outside of the pack. I also want to develop his relationship with the pack more before he has his altercation with the Alpha, and why he seems to believe that he has to leave even though no one has told him that losing a fight to the Alpha means he has to leave. I also want to delve further into the fact that Lizzie herself seems to think she can't return home, even though she knows the relationship she's in is no good for her. The last thing I would like to add to this outline when I go back to it is I would like to draft a better ending to the outline, because the ending that is currently on this outline is just utter crap. And I know it's utter crap. And I know when I write the first draft it'll be utter crap. But I can still develop it a little further to make it end in a less monotone way. That's not quite the right word I'm looking for, but it's the word I'm going to go with, because that's what it feels like. It feels very monotone. After I finished the outline, the next thing I started to do was develop my werewolves and write down the concept of my werewolves. I did change this as I was typing it up, because the original details I had about werewolves on the paper were that they could be both born and created, and I wanted to go with a different concept in this case where they are just born. I did not develop into the history of werewolves, like how they came to be. As far as I know, they are just there. I don't know. I might go back and develop that further. I might not. The other thing I also started to include and then took out is a biological chart talking about how someone who is born of both werewolf parents might still be human, and someone born of a werewolf and a human parent might be either a human or a werewolf. But I decided to take that out because it wasn't working the way I wanted it to, in order to show the knowledge that I have in my head. And since that's something that no one but me is going to see anyways, I decided it wasn't worth wasting my time to do, and I just kept it out and continued writing the rest of the history as I had developed it so far. Not history, that's not the right word. The concept of my werewolves as it had developed so far in the handwritten version of this text. The next thing I went ahead and did was set my project targets. I'm using Scrivener 3 on Mac Mardigan in order to write all of my stories, so I can set deadlines for myself using a target word count. In this case, I am setting it for 50,000 words. Then I can add which days I would like to write on, whether or not I would like to write on the deadline date, and I can also figure out how much I need to write each day in order to hit that target word count. All of my projects start as 50,000 word stories, unless, of course, it is part of a series, and earlier books in the series that have already been written have exceeded my initial word count. I tend to try to write books about the same length if they are in the series with each other, so I will always aim for whatever word count previous books have hit as far as the target goes if it is part of a series. Since this one is a standalone, I went ahead and just set it for 50,000 words and let that be it. So the last thing I did was create a new folder in the research area of Scrivener along with the werewolves concept, and I created a whole bunch of character cards in order to input the character profiles. I originally was going to put the character data on the outside of the card, similar in the way I had done with the outline. However, I discovered I cannot use the return key or the enter key, so that made it a little bit difficult, and I ended up opening each of the files and just inputting the information I wanted there. I did have a bit of trouble with Lizzie's name in the beginning because I couldn't figure out how to add special characters, so that was a bit of a learning curve, but all in all it worked out. I don't know why I decided to create character profiles back in the time period I handwrote this, but I am thankful to Past Sky for doing so, because it made it a lot easier to know who was who when I was filling out this outline, because I didn't realize how many names were exactly said in the outline process itself until I was going through it and typing it all up. And then again, when I was typing up the character profiles and I was seeing some of the names and going, oh, that's who this person is, that's who this person is, and that's why it matters. So I'm glad for Past Me for doing that. Thank you, Past Me. You actually care about future me, which is not something I can say about present me, because present me doesn't give two shits about future me. The only cards I am showing here as I fill this out are Lizzie and Doug's, because of the fact that there are so many characters. This video is already long as it is, but on top of that, I don't have as much information for the rest of the characters as I do Lizzie and Doug, so it's just easier to go ahead with just what Lizzie and Doug are doing, and maybe next time I'll have filled out the rest of the characters in more depth so that you can see what they look like as well, or I'll just continue leaving them off screen because I might not even add any more extra information. I have physical descriptions in their character cards, and that's about it. What is being listed in the character cards is the next most interesting thing, and I ended up copying the list once I created it on Lizzie's side over to Doug and then finally everyone else. And on that list is date of birth and age, place of birth, gender, species or racial or origin, language, family, friends, pets, etc., height, hair color, eye color, tattoos, blemishes, and birthmarks, clothing or equipment. I am not certain why equipment is listed on there. Personality and attitude, skills and talents, favorites and likes, hates and dislikes, goals and ambitions, strengths, weaknesses, fears, hobbies and interests, religions and beliefs, and occupation. I don't know where I pulled this list from originally because I don't usually do character profiles like this, so I'm not certain how it came to be, but I am a little glad that it is here because it will help me when I go to re-outline this as well as when I go to start writing the draft. It'll be easier to see who's who because these character profiles exist and I can just pull information from them as I write. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing more videos in this series in the future. And I will talk to you guys all next time. Bye, Dragonlings.